everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into INE Live. This is Tech Tuesday here on INE Live. We're really excited because we have a brand new segment coming at you today. Welcome to the INE Boardroom. This is something new that we're trying. Let us know if you like it, hate it. Give us your feedback, but we thought it was a pretty cool concept. We're bringing together the content directors of each of the different verticals that INE produces content for, and just bringing them together to get some insight on some recently released content right from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and then have them dish about some new exciting things that are going to be coming down the pike, and get them all together sort of in one virtual room, give them a chance to talk to each other and give you a chance to ask your questions and react and sort of weigh in on what you think about some recent additions and some that are yet to come. So an exciting segment. Again, it's brand new for us. We're calling it the INE Boardroom. So again, let us know what you think. As always, we are answering your questions here. First, a little bit of housekeeping, as we do each time we stream here on INE Live. I want to let you know we are streaming live right now to social media platforms, including LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Be sure to like and subscribe on the social media platform you're using so you can get notifications when we do go live. We want you to get involved, talk to us, talk to others. Already see chat going this morning. Love to see that. Our team is monitoring chat. So if you have a comment, go ahead and drop it in. If you have a question, do us a favor, put a Q at the beginning. Makes it easier for us to find those questions. We can pull them over and get them over to the experts. We will get to as many of those questions as we can today. I promise you that. With that, I will bring in our guest of honor for today, Director of Cloud Content, Mike Pfeiffer, Director of Cybersecurity Content, Jack Reedy, and Director of Networking Content and co-founder of INE, Brian McGann. Gentlemen, all very familiar faces here on INE Live, but welcome and thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us, Captain.
Thank you.
So I want to just get right to it and jump into, sort of the meat of this. There has been a lot of changes over the past few months here at INE. A lot of improvements, absolutely. In the last 4 months alone, just to tick off a few, INE has acquired Pentester Academy, acquired cloudskills.io, released a new browser-based lab platform, released a new certification, the INE Certified Cloud Associate. Those are just the highlights, but obviously some very big ones. And again, that's just over the past few months here. And so, things are changing quickly. They're changing quickly, and everyone's kind of along for the ride. But there's an intense strategy that's driving all these changes. And Brian, I want to get to you first because you've been with INE the longest and probably have the best perspective on these changes, how they're resonating with people, how they're resonating internally, and the magnitude of these changes, and what it means from a learner perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. So it's a lot to unpack. There's been a lot that's going on at INE lately. First, you mentioned the Pentester Academy acquisition, which goes along with our new lab platform that is browser-based. So this is not only for cybersecurity, but it's also for networking and also for cloud. A big thing that we've been working on in networking lately is adding labs to all of our existing courses that fall into our learning paths, like CCI Enterprise Infrastructure and CCNP and CCNA and so on and so forth. So that's a big impact on the networking world. The other big impact is that we expanded our cloud offerings with the acquisition of Cloud Skills and with Mike joining the team. So we're really glad to have Mike on board. And we just have a lot of changes going on and a lot to, for people to see.
In reading the feedback that's been coming in, obviously a ton of it has been very positive. We've seen questions coming in though, like it's jarring, right? INE is changing very, very quickly. And I think all of you here would say yes, and we're owning that.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. So I think the thing is that that's what the point of this is. Education changes. We're trying to make sure that everyone has the best hands-on experience as possible, and moving that in a global perspective, moving the marker towards that. Education system that we, as we know it today, has been around since the very early 1900s. Actually, I think even earlier than that. It's not working. We can tell that. We know what's going on in the universities right now. We know what's going on in the world. And we're looking at more ways to get people into this field. And to do that, we need to be aggressive in the way that we train and reach the individuals. And with that, more hands-on labs, more ways to make sure that everybody has opportunities to access the information that's there to be learned, and to do so in we're looking at as many methods of communication from an instructional design perspective. And that's what I don't think a lot of people actually realize that about us. We do have instructional designers that are helping us to make sure that we are reaching out to the students, to make sure that we are portraying the information that we're trying to portray in both a constructed manner, but also through as many different capacities or capabilities, so that way it translates well to the global audience.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to expand a little bit on that, Jack, because I know you've worked very closely with Dr. Amanda Martin, who is our instructional designer. And actually, we've just brought on another instructional designer onto the team as well. And you'll get to know them in the coming months. But Jack, I know you've worked very closely with Dr. Martin on this instructional design over the past few months. Can you just kind of dig in a little to how important that is, and how important that strategy behind pushing out this material is?
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. I mean, you can't necessarily just create in the dark or create in an echo chamber whenever you're talking about this type of instruction, right? We're trying to meet these certain objectives. What are those objectives within the career paths? Be it the objectives that we have for, if you're doing this certification, we want you to be up to this level of understanding or knowledge. The problem is, though, is that in order to translate that in an effective means and then document it in a meaningful way that we can then also use that knowledge base to get accredited in different organizations, or nationally, or in some other form or manner, it takes time and it takes effort, and it takes somebody that knows the process. So we work directly with two different instructional designers now. We just added, as you said, one to the team, and the entire purpose is to not only build engaging and hands-on course content, or other types of videos, or things like that. This isn't just a YouTube channel. We are building towards an ultimate goal of strategic learning for the job place, the job market.
Yeah, and I think that's so important when you use that word strategic learning, right? To your point, we're not just throwing things out there and throwing everything up against the wall and hoping it sticks. There is a great deal of strategy behind the process here at INE. One of the things that has been probably one of the most noticeable changes over the last few weeks or so is the change to INE's lab platform, right? We started in late December, moving some of those labs, migrating them over after the acquisition of Pentester Academy to this browser-based lab platform. And in the process of that, there are growing pains. We're upfront with that, but ultimately, I want to ask each of you, and feel free to jump in on the conversation here, because I want to talk about the strategy behind that, and the history of VPN labs, which have been traditionally what INE has relied on, some of the issues and the challenges that we've battled there, and then I'd like to hear each of your thoughts on the benefits of flexibility, maybe some of the pros, maybe even some of the cons to these browser-based labs, and ultimately why. I assume all of you, actually, I know all of you do buy into this browser-based lab platform as being the future. So I want to hear why, and I hope our students can help understand the strategy behind this. Brian, let's start with you here.
Yeah, Catherine, we've been doing equipment rentals for almost 20 years at INE, which is basically physical networking equipment that we would have in our data center. And then we had all sorts of automation scripts that would run against it. And people would have to go through our scheduling system and use tokens in order to rent rack time on different verticals like routing and switching and security, collaboration, etc. But the biggest advantage that we have now is that we can integrate these labs right into the playlists, so that the playlist for the videos, so that when you're watching a particular video, you're watching me do something on the command line, you get the opportunity right after to follow along and do that at your own pace without having to worry about advanced scheduling, and also without having to worry about any type of special connectivity requirement, because historically that's been one of the problems that we run into for networking, is that most networks are limited as to what type of traffic they allow out of the network. So we would have issues where customers might be able to access our labs from home, but not be able to access it from their office without going through, some jumping through hoops. But with today's offerings with the Pentester Academy, it's simple point and click. You just click one button. We have the virtual topology that spins up in the case of networking, and then you can interface right with the networking devices. I've been using it personally in development for the past couple months, and the system is really, really impressive. I'm also going to be using it in my upcoming SD-WAN bootcamp, which is software-defined wide area networking. So this is one of the features that customers have been asking for a long time, that we didn't have rack rentals for SD-WAN, but with the new platform from PTA, we are going to be able to offer that, not as a rental service where you're not going to have to use tokens, but it's going to be built in to the other content like the SD-WAN videos.
So I want to dig in a little bit on your experience with this lab platform, Brian, and see if you can kind of give us some details of that. You've been using it for a few months, you said. Pros and cons. What do you think?
It's hard to say what the cons are, to tell you the truth. The big advantage is that the automation is very simple. It only takes a couple minutes for the networking devices to spin up, and they come up with the correct initial configurations, what we call it, basically like the state of the network that you need to start at in order to accomplish some sort of particular goal. It used to be where it was very difficult to get these initial snapshots onto the networking devices, and people had to go through a long waiting period with the automation system. It took like 20-30 minutes in order to load up the routers. But now, like I said, you can be watching the video, click on the lab, spend 5 minutes watching the end of the video, and then by the time that you're ready, you have the lab environment pre-built for you right there, ready to go for your studies.
Yeah, that's great. I know that's beneficial to a lot of people, and from a firsthand experience, I can say I have a while back started taking starter pass classes. Right, I come from a very non-technical background, but my curiosity has been sparked by I want to learn more about this industry and sort of the intimate details. I started taking the starter pass and had a lot of difficulty getting into that VPN platform. I think I called about 7 people. I started to feel like maybe I can't do this. I don't know if any students can relate to that at all, or maybe I just really am not technical. But I started to think maybe this is just too much. And I have to say, from my perspective, being able to once I got in there, it was fine. I was able to complete the exercises, and from my perspective, being able to bypass that hurdle and get right into the learning, I can certainly understand, the benefits of that. Jack, what about you? What are your thoughts on this? I know we've talked at length over the last couple months about the switchover, and you've heard a fair amount of feedback from people on your end.
Well, yeah. So obviously, we have a slightly different use case here because we have eLearn Security on my end, right? So we have, and eLearn Security came from basically utilizing an open VPN platform that would connect similarly to what Brian was talking about. The problem is that when you do that type of learning, as you just described, it can be difficult for the new students to connect and engage and have a meaningful time. Maintenance costs are higher. There's a lot of the back end stuff of maintaining that type of environment with the VPN. And realistically, it was not as conducive as we would like to the educational process. If we're trying to train to a certain learning objective of understanding the underlying technology, we want you to be able to precisely replicate it in hands-on environment, utilizing the tools and messing around with that specific tool and the parameters as you progress and learn and everything else like that. I think that pros and cons, to kind of go off of what Brian was talking about, going off of either. I think that it is fun to just do stuff in technology. I mean, especially in cybersecurity, we like to break stuff, put it back together 10 different ways from not. But that's realistically not what the training part of our platform is about. It's supposed to be about, replicating and be able to experience what it is as a baseline understanding, right? Um, I think that there's more to progress forward in that, to where maybe there's a space we can create or something like that for some form of a playground, if you will, or something like that. But the path that's moving forward, I think this is the best way, because Brian really hit on it when he's talking about not just the networking protocols, ins and outs, being at business or home, but from a global perspective, trying to connect VPN can actually be extremely difficult as well. Trying to go from one country to the other, the routing that's in between there. We frequently had issues where students were not able to successfully access the platform via Open VPN, and then they would think that they were still going through the steps. So then they were sending attacks just out into the wild, which was also a whole nother issue, right? So in this manner, this is a really secure, and again, it's fundamental. So we're putting up bumper rails intentionally.
Got it. And yeah, to your point that you were making, this is V1 of these labs, right? Version 1. The sky is the limit when it comes to this, and there's so much room to grow here. Mike, talk to me a little about your experience, your thoughts on the platform, and really why. And you and I have talked about this in the past, but why this is really the future, right? Like we're leaning into this because this is the future of our industry.
Yeah, I really believe that, Catherine. And, one of the things that just went through my head when everybody was talking today was when I started my career, I had to go and buy stuff off eBay. I had to, scrounge everything that I could get to do hands-on. And that's really difficult in terms of getting started. So I believe that what we're doing is the right path. We're going to basically be setting up a new platform, just like we discussed, that's going to give people more access. So this is going to be a thing where more people can get in the game beyond, anything that we've had before. And we really need that in the industry. We need to lower the barrier to entry to doing some of these hands-on operations, practice, doing labs. I had to go back in the day, and I did did rack rentals when I was studying for my Cisco stuff. I bought hardware off the internet and built it all on my own. But nobody, for the most part, IT teams are doing things in a much different way. And so now we got to go faster to keep up with that. And I think that this is an awesome way to get people, connected to all these different verticals. And I feel like cloud, if I'm honest, it's probably one of the easier ones because, it's just kind of like by default, the starter version of that is a browser, right? So we've definitely got it a little bit easier on the cloud side. But yeah, I think that hands-on is absolutely essential. And I think that what we'll be able to build over time, people will start to recognize that because, you can only watch so much content in a video without applying that. It's going to be very hard, and we're moving faster than ever. And I think that, with the speed that these, everybody in the industry is moving at, we need the ability to, kind of do things in a new way. So I'm excited about it. I think this is essential. These hands-on labs, super important.
Yeah, this is a really exciting time to be part of the INE team. I can tell you, INE has never shied away from being a trailblazer in the industry and pushing the envelope when it comes to, pushing the limits, trying new things, and testing the very edges of what's possible, which I think has made this such an exciting journey. Mike, I want to spend a little bit of time with you right now and just talk about some of the cloud developments that have happened over the last few weeks, and then we'll shift into some of the things that are to come. But the ICCA, that was a big one, right? Talk to me a little about that and where we are now, where it stands.
Yeah, that was really fun to get out there, and it's fun to see people taking the exam. I was tagged on a thread on Twitter last week at the end of the week where somebody went and take the exam. They were sharing their experience. So that was cool. I really think that, what we're doing with the certs is going to be a game changer. And that was just the first one. So the ICCA is really just the associate layer for cloud. And what we're building next, right now we're working on it, is a multi-cloud engineer certification path. And so, the labs in there are going to span different level of difficulties. So, a lot of times when you're doing some kind of certification path, it's like 200 level, it's 300 level, it's 400 level, but it's kind of fixed, right? What we're doing with the multi-cloud engineer learning path and certification path is the labs and the projects that are going to be in there as you're studying. Those are going to be different levels of complexity. So there will be 200 level for somebody that's a brand new cloud engineer. There will be 300 level labs, as well as 400 level labs in some cases as we build out new scenarios. And there's only so much that I can teach somebody when I'm standing in front of a room with a whiteboard or I'm recording a video. But when you're in there, for a 300 or 400 level lab, you're really experiencing the same things that an engineer in the field working at a real company that's really using cloud, you're doing the same things. And so that's one of the things that kind of is a follow along to the ICCA that we're working on. There's going to be a lot that goes into that because it's going to be multiple courses and dozens of labs. But that's kind of the next one that's coming. So the work that we're doing with the labs and the stuff that we had to go through as a team to build the ICCA really set us up for the future here. And when Jack was talking earlier about kind of opening our minds up as an industry of iterating, right? I just remember back in the day where we would do stuff and do all this planning, invest a certain amount of money as a company, right? And then you're just hoping that it's going to last for 2-3 years because that's how we used to do things. But we don't really do things like that anymore because industry's changing every day almost. So I think that with where we're at right now, we're perfectly positioned to build even more amazing experiences and certifications. And we're just getting warmed up right now.
Yeah, and without going into specifics, a couple people in chat have asked, are there more certifications coming down the pike? I think we can safely, without giving too much away, say yes. Fair?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
fair.
I think we say that.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, can you talk a little about the GitHub bootcamp? That's coming up later this week. Talk a little about what that's all about. Give people a rundown and what they can expect in this, and why we're talking about this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's trying to figure out GitHub that hasn't gotten into it yet. And I'm excited about this bootcamp because this is going to be another way that, across all the verticals, but especially in the cloud team, for us to do something a little bit different. And so this week we're jumping on the bootcamp for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Got Brooks Seahorn, who's our lead AWS instructor, and then Matt Davis, who's also, one of our DevOps instructors, previously worked at GitHub. He's got a lot of knowledge about, just not only the basics, but like what GitHub is doing, how teams are using it. And so that bootcamp is going to be a very interactive experience where you could come in and then learn how do teams in the modern era collaborate on code, not just, how do I get connected and commit code, but also, how do I share my updates with my team? And how do I do things that everybody in the top of the industry that's at leading edge, how do I do that? And so we're going to spend 3 days going through all that stuff. It doesn't matter if you're, really doesn't matter if you're not a cloud focused, if you're cybersecurity or networking, or even data science, whatever, the GitHub stuff is going to be useful because, we're talking about storing code in there and collaborating code, but we're also talking about documenting your own projects and things like Markdown, which, isn't really that complicated, but it is intimidating for a lot of people because GitHub and, storing code somewhere and collaborating on it is a new thing for a lot of people. But that bootcamp is going to, I think, take away a lot of some of the uncertainty and maybe, I don't know, fear of getting into something like that, because it is kind of a programming centric thing. Not everybody's a programmer. So I'm excited we can kind of, help people get past that, I guess, trying to find the right word for that. But then also just like so many other boot camps that are coming that we're going to be doing just for the cloud team. So it's a great way for us to, from going from building projects and building labs and shooting video to jump on a live event with a bunch of people. And I was just checking this morning, we had a ton of people already set up and registered for GitHub this week. So I'm excited, and it's just the first one of many.
That's awesome. And you mentioned how important this is for crossover. I'm curious, Brian and Jack, your take on this boot camp. Would you say people, in networking, in cybersecurity should maybe head over, check it out. What specific level, how advanced do you have to be in cloud to be able to get a lot out of this? The three of you kind of take that answer away among yourselves, but just curious how valuable it is to people in other vertical spaces.
Extremely. The thing is that I think that GitHub skill sets are here to stay for a long time. It's definitely part of SDLC, and you'll come up against it at some point in your life, be it via, you might not do it initially as a technician, but you'll get there as a manager. Like you're gonna experience it.
Yeah, definitely. One of the big things in networking is what we call development operations, or DevOps. And it's getting networking more from a programming point of view. So definitely knowing how GitHub works is going to help you out in your career for sure.
All right, you heard it from them. Jump in there to the GitHub bootcamp later this week. You want to give one more plug for it, Mike? When and how people can register?
Yeah, let's do that. I need to look at the date, if I'm honest. I was just looking at it earlier. I just want to make sure I give out the right information here. So I know it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. So let's just get that. Apologize, I'm not on the right screen. Stand by 1 second.
So I believe
and if you follow us on social, you won't be able to miss it.
I got it. So February 23rd, 24th, 25th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that's my local time. So I'm in Phoenix. So Eastern, that would be noon Eastern.
Perfect.
And that's all up on the platform. So if you're in INE, if you're on the INE website, just go to boot camps and you'll see it right there on the top one. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. I mean, and we're not expecting anybody to be like a master. We're starting from scratch. So that would be my final plug. Come in there, check it out, and I think that everybody will get a little bit of something out of it, if not a lot out of it.
If you'd like to join, it looks like I was just going to say, it looks like I see all the links in the chat right now. If you'd like to join, just go ahead and click in there.
Yeah.
Yep. I was just going to say, Crystal, our moderator, is saying it's all in the chat and it will be posted on social immediately after the show. So if you're interested in that GitHub bootcamp, which it sounds like everyone should be, go ahead and check that out. Check out the links in chat, or they'll be posted right after this. Mike, one more thing I want to touch on specifically as it relates to cloud, the multi-cloud engineer certification path. And we're having a lot of questions in chat about multi-cloud and how critical that is, how important it is. Can you talk a little about the multi-cloud engineer certification path and where we are on that and where we're headed?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's going to be a path full of about 10 or 11 courses. And we've already started shooting the first couple courses on that. And so basically, you could take these courses and just do the labs that are in there. But the idea is if you go through all of that, and you go take the certification that we have at the end, it's going to be very in-depth, testing your knowledge of things across multiple cloud platforms, especially in the very beginning, AWS and Azure, and then we'll add Google as we go. But what we really want to create here is an opportunity for everyone to be able to not only just learn this stuff, but to go into an interview and to be able to showcase your skill set and your experience. I think probably the biggest thing that I hear from people is I don't have enough experience in cloud. And this is one way of fixing that, getting in and building stuff. Is it in production? No, but it's the best way to start. And the projects and the labs that we're going to build are going to be very real world. And, multi-cloud certification ultimately is going to mean you're going to be able to go into an employer and basically prove that, hey, I'm able to take an objective that's a requirement that uses multiple clouds, and I'm able to get those objectives accomplished with very high level detail, just like I would at any company that I'm working at. So that's kind of the high level idea. Where we're at with it, still building the first couple courses. We're also still building up the cloud team. So as the team grows, that'll happen faster. But like I said, each course is going to have multiple projects or labs in it, and those will span different levels of complexity. So even just doing one course in the path will teach someone a lot. And we're just going to hit all the pillars that any cloud engineer would need to know, like identity, infrastructure as code, serverless, virtual machines, storage, databases, migrations, all that kind of stuff. But not only from 200 level all the way up to very hardcore. So that's kind of the high level. And, it's going to take us some time to build it. But I think that as we go and create labs, you'll start to get a sense of where this is all headed. Because after the multi-cloud engineer, we're going to have architecture, we're going to have DevOps, and there will be some of that in there, kind of anyways. But yeah, that's kind of the big picture idea. And
Yeah, and
you can iterate.
Incredibly valuable. I'm looking at a comment. Bob made a comment. That sounds sweet. Just read a job posting requiring skills for the big three cloud platforms and focusing on that multi-cloud environment. Something that again, we're really leaning into. Juan J just signed up for the GitHub bootcamp. So he's already getting smarter this week. Juan J,
Nice.
Good to know. We'll see you there. All right, Mike, thank you. I want to shift over to Brian and talk a little about networking. What's happened, what's been happening, what's coming up. Brian, some focus on the Juniper courses. Talk to me a little about those, where we're at, where we're going.
Yeah, so like Mike was saying with cloud, the big thing is to diversify. So not only in today's environments do you need to know about AWS, but possibly Azure, maybe Google Cloud. In the networking world, this is going to be for different vendors like Cisco, Juniper, Fortinet we're working on, and the technologies you'll see that are covered are going to be the same, but there's a different flavor of how Juniper implements, let's say, OSPF routing versus how Cisco implements, the same type of technology. So you'll be able to see both flavors. You'll learn about the technology from a vendor independent point of view, just, what is it? How does it work behind the scenes? And then when you go to actually do the implementation with our new lab platform, it is vendor independent. So we do have labs that are on Cisco, but we also have labs that are on Juniper. And we're also working on other vendors that are, we're working out the details in terms of the kind of interoperability. But the big thing is that pretty much all of our content in networking going forward is going to be more diversified into what are the other vendors beyond just Cisco systems.
Yeah, I'm seeing a comment coming up from the bearded IT dad. I work on Juniper all day, every day, and I'm planning on getting Juniper certs. So obviously a huge thing going forward. Brian, I want to talk to you a little about the SD-WAN bootcamp that is coming up. And can you tell us a little about that and, give us a plug for it? I know this is something that your team has been working very hard on.
Yeah, this is actually the second iteration of this course that I'm going to be delivering. And the difference is that now we have access to the PTA web-based cloud platform. And the big advantage now is that there's going to be labs that go along with the bootcamp that you'll be able to follow along. You as the student will be able to follow along. And it's going to be just that one-click simplicity that you just click on the Launch Lab button. It's going to come up with the topology already pre-built. And basically, I had to spend a full day in the bootcamp last time talking about how do you deal with just server virtualization. And this is kind of goes back to what Jack was saying before, and the open VPN and the focus on one technology versus another. It's like you accidentally become an expert in these other side technologies that you weren't trying to focus on, because you have to go through these nitty-gritty details in order to get to the topic that you really wanted to learn in the first place. So in our case, with this bootcamp, you'll be able to just open up the SD-WAN topology. Everything is going to be working, and then you'll be able to build it beyond that to see its functionality.
I would imagine that people are getting a lot more value out of this one as well. You mentioned that at the first iteration, you had to spend almost a full day kind of explaining those details and how to get past some of the, to your words, nitty gritty. You must be thrilled to be able to bring more value and more actual meat to one of these boot camps.
Yeah, it's a really great feature that we have, and we haven't really publicized it as much as we should have yet for networking, what really the power of this platform is and what we can do with it. But there's going to be tons of new labs that are released into the system for networking that you'll see available with your subscription on my.ine, and just not having to deal with, like Mike was saying before, either renting racks or building your own physical network. You'll be able to do that for not only the traditional routing and switching topics, but also the new topics like SD-WAN.
All right, awesome. Jack, I want to shift over to you for some cyber developments, some previews about things that are coming up. first up, career paths aligned with courseware and certifications. These are phrases that I've spent the last year hearing and dealing with very closely. Talk to me a little about this.
So on the back end, obviously obviously the career paths is going to be published sometime very soon coming up. But when it does, what we've been building in the cyber area has been more aligned to what you're going to do in the actual workplace at multi levels of your career progression, up to about 6 to 8 years of experience, actually. It's in depth. It is focused on what I've talked about on here multiple times, the career path. So that would be, you have offensive operations, or red teaming as we know it, defensive operations, blue teaming as we know it, or security engineering, or yellow teaming as it's not commonly referred to as, which is also frequently IT. It's basically IT with security, security minded IT. But we are working towards building in the job roles, the actual functionality that you need in the actual position. Now, unlike, left and right with Mike and Brian, we're a bit more tool agnostic, because in the actual, cybersecurity workplace, if you move from one position to another position within the enterprise environment, you're going to have a whole new tool set that you have to learn. So we're more focused on processes, procedures, and research to be able to ask the questions necessary to understand the security posture and improve it. So, yeah, I mean, it is just what we're working towards in general for the past, while to say, but we're actually going to be producing something very soon.
Yeah. And that's very exciting. I want to get back really quickly. I just saw a comment come in from Aziz. Dates for Brian's SD-WAN bootcamp. Brian, do you want to weigh in on that?
I'll have to check my calendar. Give me just a second here. Catherine, why don't you get back to me on that, and I will.
All right, fair
take
point.
a look at that right now.
Again, just while Brian's checking on that, we'll come back to him so he can verbally reinforce it. But we do have the links in our posted in chat, and we're posting them right after. So stick around, Aziz. We'll get right back to you on that, or click on one of those links. Jack, I'm going to hop back to you to talk a little bit. We sort of teased some of the upcoming certifications and the expansion of those. Can you talk a little about what areas we're going to be pursuing, and give us sort of a sneak peek on where we're headed?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, we're building out the three different verticals in there. At least I'll call them those verticals. So one, we're expanding out the blue team section. Really, we're breaking apart. Incident response is in and of itself a career path. You can go almost your entire career working in incident response, with specializations between malware analysis, reverse engineering, or digital forensics, actually sitting in front of a courtroom and giving testimony to evidence that you found or you recovered. So we are looking at that as a more holistic picture, and dividing up the incident response into the professional levels, the advanced levels, and breaking up the certifications to be more rounded and about a bit more reflective as to what we experience in the red team certs currently, because you have EJPT, then you have CPPT, and then you have CPTX as a certification pass. As far as what we have coming very, very soon, it's not been a secret that we've had, Josh Mason and Alexi Ahmed working on EJPT as well as PTS and penetration testing. So coming up very soon, we should be seeing those courses coming out with the new update on the new updated platform, as well as hopefully an updated certification that's looking to be a bit more difficult, but much better reflective of the actual positions and skills necessary to get into a job role.
Yeah, some big changes coming up there, and really in all of the learning areas. I think it's fair to say INE doesn't stop. We've never stopped, and we don't intend to anytime soon. Some big changes. I want to go round robin really quick, and don't feel like you have to go really quick. I guess I just want to ask you each what you're most excited for coming up. It could be something within your learning area, or just with with the company as a whole, or really even within the industry. What do you look at right now as a professional and say, wow, I am like jazzed about that. That gets my passion going. I'm into it. Brian?
I would say it's our new automation for the labs. So I've been working on a project like this for so long, and to get it to the point where we can just click one button and then spin up the labs for networking, it's a huge leap forward in our technology behind the scenes. It may not look like that from the front end because it's so simple when you're dealing with the web-based interface, but there is really a lot of research and heart and soul that went into the lab platform. So that's what I'm looking forward to most, is people in networking discovering that we have not only videos but also labs that correspond to each of them now.
Awesome. Jack, what about you?
So to piggyback off of Brian, I am super hyped about the automation, but on the certification front, being able to take take these labs and these exams that we are building out, which keep in mind that our instructors are doing very heavy. We generally start with the certification, look at where it's at and where we want to go, and then we go back and we will reverse engineer all the courses that we want to lead to those certifications. So when you talk about that, being able to build automation in from the ground set. On top of that, we're going to have expanded anti-cheating capabilities. We're going to have expanded automation capabilities. We're going to intentionally be designing multiple paths, multiple ways to get different answers, question pools, all sorts of stuff. I'm very excited about that.
All right, Mike, you're up.
Yeah, so Brian and Jack took the good answers, but I'm not going to disagree with what they said. To piggyback on those, I'll just add in my thoughts on top of that. I really enjoy when I hear from somebody or just see somebody celebrating out there, whether whether they're new in their career or whether they're in IT and they're moving into cloud. I feel like we're building the vehicle for that. That's what I'm excited about. So beyond what Brian and Jack said on the technical side, we've got air cover from the top of INE to build something that's never existed before. And that's exactly what we need to do. And that's what I'm excited about most, is we're going to create something that's never existed and help people get further in a way that nobody has ever done before.
Yeah,
That's a good answer.
innovation, creation. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say that the lab automation is insanely cool. I could go on about that forever, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, we're all pretty excited about that. Again, no, it's a big change, but it's just so much opportunity there. Just, again, sky's the limit. I want to circle back to Aziz, I believe, who was asking about the SD-WAN bootcamp. Aziz, those dates have not been finalized just yet. Keep checking back on our bootcamp website. We'll have those dates as soon as they're finalized. We'll have them up and ready, and that goes for all of our boot camps. So, yeah. Any final thoughts, you guys?
I'm actually enjoying this format. I think, one of the things that I'm looking forward to too about INE Live is that we're going to continue to do this once a month. So that way we continue on and being able to talk about, what's going on in our different sections. And I see, just to go ahead and make a point real quick, I see all of the customer, support, either tickets or comments or feedback. I practically live in, cohabitate with our customer support group. We hear you guys, right? So this is actually allowing us to constructively talk about what we are building and things like that, because sometimes it's difficult just to get the message out there in a meaningful way. But I'm really enjoying this and looking forward to this, Catherine.
Yeah, awesome. I'm really glad you said that. I mentioned this at the top of the stream, but this is a kind of a new type of stream that we're putting together. We're calling it the INE Boardroom, where we're bringing together the content directors into one sort of virtual, for now, space to talk about, what's been happening, what is coming up, and just give you guys a chance to get some perspective on things and ask your questions. A lot of great comments today. People, who are weighing in, getting or who are listening in, getting a lot of value out of this. A couple audience questions I want to get to before we wrap it up here. Aziz, back to Aziz. What is the expectation on the industry's acceptance of INE certifications? I think this is a great question. Obviously, we would hope that the industry is enthusiastically embracing our certifications, but it goes far beyond that, because we know it is proven that the industry will get on board with this, because this is a proven, tested method that we've followed. And we already have a number of certifications through the eLearn Security brand. But I want to turn that over to you guys. And I'd love to hear each of your perspectives on that. Mike, we'll start with you.
Sure. I think that, part of that is my responsibility to talk about like what we're doing. But I think to your point, Catherine, there's already been quite a bit of momentum on previous certifications, especially now that everything's kind of converging from all the acquisitions. It's already been quite a reputation on everything that we've done collectively. But yeah, I think that we just need to talk about it more. And I think what you'll notice happen as time goes on, as we continue to build more labs, I think that people are going to start to undeniably notice what we're doing, right? But we do, I got to do a good job of educating, the ecosystem of what we do, what we've got. But I think that that's a cool opportunity, because the labs that we're going to build that support these certifications are going to be so progressive in what you actually have to do hands-on. I think that any employer that looks at that, even if they're not previously aware of the certification, I think they will be impressed. And so that's how I kind of plan on the cloud certifications and the labs that we're doing on to handle that. But I think that also, there's already a reputation there. So everybody that's supported cloud skills, Pen Tester Academy, and of course, the other acquisitions, INE especially, I think that, it's already happened in the past and it's going to continue to grow. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I love the word you use there, Mike, opportunity, because I think it is, we're at the ground floor of an absolutely huge opportunity here. Jack, what do you think the industry expectations and, reaction is going to be?
So I think it's going to be, well, I think it's going to be twofold. One, we talked previously about our instructional designers, and part of the reason why we're so involved with them and building these certifications and building these, the courseware and things like that, is for industry recognition. We are intentionally documenting things. We're making it very clear what the objectives and the outcomes are, which it makes it very easy to create something you can just hand over to the employer and say, look, if I have the certification, this is what I know. On top of that, one of the things we're doing with the certifications is we are trying to mimic real life expectations and experience that you'll have in the day-to-day job. And what I mean by that is I have zero plans to sign off on having some type of person view. The entire room is covered and coded and you can't see anything as you're taking the certification. That's unrealistic. You can Google stuff. It's fine. We're going to make it very short on the testing time frame, so you better know it. But if there's a knowledge-based questionnaire in there, the intent is you know it and you know it well enough. And you're putting your hands on the computer, you're doing the skills, and you're doing the steps necessary to do the job. Because you're going to have Google, you're going to have searching resources available to you in the job marketplace. So why have an unrealistic certification that the room must be purely clean and nobody can be around you while you're showing off these skills? It doesn't make any sense. So I think that the industry, once they see this, like I said, the new way that we're handling this, where we're just treating you like an individual that's going to be an employee, and that's the entire purpose of this, is employment as the primary objective, I think that they'll accept it very well.
Brian, you've been with INE for a long time. You've seen a lot. What do you think?
Well, certification was originally our primary business, preparing people for certification. So pretty much anybody that's an INE customer knows about what are the networking certifications out there. We are working on a networking certification of our own. I can't go into too many details yet because it's still super secret squirrel behind the scenes that we're working on the project. But we do have, like Mike was saying, with the advent of our new platform for the labs, that is going to be the big differentiating factor with our certifications versus what you see out there in the industry today. So I would say that the recognition is going to come over time as people really understand, like Mike was saying, what the capabilities of this platform are and how it transforms your ability to not only learn from a hands-on point of view, but also be tested from a hands-on point of view in the terms of like a certification.
I want to get to, thank you for that, Brian. Want to get to a question from Ronan Sek. because I think this is a really, really important question and something that is worth clarifying. Ronan Sag asked, why take out the report aspect of eLearn security exams? It will lose value in the marketplace. And please give us the option of a VPN too. Forcing us to use that web VM is not good. We'll clip the breakdown of the labs from earlier as a post. This is representative of some comments that we've gotten. Jack, I see you kind of chuckling there, because this is not unfamiliar criticism or reaction, but to your point, it's not going away.
Well, so there's two things here. One, we aren't taking away the reporting feature. That people took me saying automation and just assumed that I'm taking away the reporting feature. I'm not at all. What I am going to say right now is that it might get moved around a little bit to where it makes more sense. Because realistically, you're not in charge of the report as a junior individual. That's just not realistic in the career path. Realistically, in the career path, if you're a junior individual, your entire job is to gather data and to make connections. And then your boss, your manager, will be doing the reporting feature. So, just because I say automation and change and that I'm excited for changing the certifications does not mean that I'm saying I'm going to completely erase everything that's there that, eLearn Security does, or our reporting features. We have two wonderful examiners that I work with on a weekly basis quite well. And I'm not trying to remove them from the process of the progress either. I just want to add more value to the reporting feature by making sure that it happens at a professional level, like it would actually in the job market. As for the VPN stuff, again, we've already talked about this. We are intentionally, if we're focusing on skills and requirements for training, then we're going to, make sure that we do so in a repetible manner that's accessible globally. And that's not to say that there's not something coming along. This is just version 1, and this is where we're at.
Thank you for the clarification, Jack. Hope that clears it up a little bit, Ronan Sek. If not, we will be back here in March for another version of the INE Boardroom. Hope you've enjoyed this. Would love to hear your feedback. If there's something that you wanted us to address that we didn't, let us know. We'll try to get to it next time. Brian, Mike, Jack, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Catherine.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up today's stream. Thank you for watching. If you missed it live, look for the replay across our social media channels and on the INE website. I'm going to give one more plug for the bootcamp schedules. They are also on our website, and you'll be able to find those. They'll populate on our website just as soon as we get those dates finalized. There are already a number of them on there. We'll be live again right here in 2 days, Thursday, February 24th, for an introduction to Mount Cloud. This is a concept that we're having a lot of fun with developing and creating here at INE. We know it's going to be a great journey for students. Mike will be here along with INE's Chief Marketing Officer, Scott Cedarbaum, to explore changes to INE's cloud platform, as well as answer questions about how you can start your journey in the cloud space. And if you're already on your journey, how you can best utilize INE's Mount Cloud training tools to better your experience. So be sure to like and subscribe on the social media platform you're using so you can stay in the loop for details on our next stream and get notified when we do go live. As always, bring your questions. Thank you for some great questions and audience engagement today. We'll see you next time. Until then, have a great week.